The movie opens with a quiet and remarkable adult store on a dim street. Behind its calm facade hides danger. The door swings open, and Drake, a tall, mysterious man in black, steps in. He moves like a predator, scanning every corner with precision. At the counter, he places an antique wristwatch. The shopkeeper, wary, says, "Looks fake. Not worth much." Then he notices it's still ticking, but before he can react, the watch becomes a time bomb. Boom! The counter explodes, smoke and fire filling the small shop. Drake's team bursts in, masked, armed, and professional. They neutralize the guards and descend to an underground area, a hidden club behind the store. Drake grabs the terrified manager, who insists, "Nothing here. Everything sent to headquarters." Drake fires a warning shot into each ear, forcing him to reveal the location of a secret room. Inside, stacks of cash fill the room. Suitcases open, bills packed. Drake's plan is ruthless. No witnesses. Though a team member hesitates, Drake throws a grenade, obliterating the room and everyone inside. The team rendezvouses with their boss, Rhodes, who instructs them to disappear for a few days. The old pilot is gone. A new one transports the $20 million. But a severe storm causes the plane to catch fire and crash into a remote, snow-covered area. 5 months later, Harlan, a rugged man living off the grid, fishes on a frozen lake. He spots a hand in the ice, revealing the dead pilot. Next to the body floats a suitcase, still full of cash. Harlan opens it, stunned, seeing the plane wreck below. He hauls it to his tent. The next morning, Annie, a Native American game warden, warns tourists about thin ice. One brash tourist scoffs. The sheriff stands by silently. Annie locks the vehicle herself. The sheriff eventually smooths things over. She heads out to help Jed, whose truck is stuck. Meanwhile, Payne, a former criminal turned priest, preaches. Drake appears, revealing that the tracker on the missing suitcase points to the lake. Payne reluctantly joins them to help locate the $20 million. At the lake, the tracker moves under the ice. Harlan appears on foot. Annie inspects his gear and discovers the suitcase full of money. Shocked, she handcuffs him and calls the sheriff. Drake arrives with guns drawn. Only one suitcase is found. Furious, he demands the rest. To save Annie, Harlan attacks. A firefight erupts. Jed is secretly shot by Serena. Annie tries to escape in her truck, tied to Jed's vehicle. Harlan frees it, but the suitcase falls through broken ice, scattering money underwater. Harlan explains the cash came from a plane under the ice. Annie calls for sheriff backup, but their truck breaks down on thin ice. They tie themselves with a rope for safety. Drake's team pursues. One vehicle sinks, but Ellis is saved. Dax arrives on a snowmobile, ordered to chase Harlan and Annie while others take a safer route. Harlan leads Annie to his tent. The ice is dangerously thin, but they reach the shore. Inside, Annie notices family photos. Harlan avoids explaining. His gear includes a bow, arrows, and bear traps. Dax charges on a snowmobile but is caught in Harlan's traps. A fight ensues. Harlan falls into icy water, swims under, and attacks Dax with arrows. Annie kills Dax with a bear trap. Serena watches, devastated, and vows revenge. Annie leads Harlan into a hidden cave. Serena shoots at them. Annie guides him through water paths to hide their tracks. Payne deduces their route. Serena steps into a trap, delaying her. Annie and Harlan escape. Inside, Annie lights a fire. Harlan admits his wife is dead, and recounts losing his daughter in Afghanistan, returning to a broken wife, and turning to alcohol. Annie tells him of a purification ritual to overcome guilt. Meanwhile, Rhodes arrives at the cabin. Drake explains the situation. Rhodes comforts Serena, punishes Ellis, and plans to kill Harlan and Annie. The next morning, Annie and Harlan encounter Oz, who claims Harlan caused his niece's death. Harlan denies it. Annie convinces us to help fight the criminals. Us shows methane trapped under the frozen lake, extremely explosive. Harlan wants the tribe to benefit from the plane's money. Tensions rise. After us shows Annie and Harlan the trapped methane under the frozen lake, tension rises. The air is thick with anticipation. Harlan explains that the criminals are after a plane carrying millions of dollars, but he has no personal desire for the money. He wants it to help O's tribe rebuild and benefit the community. Oz, skeptical and protective of his people, questions Harlan's intentions. He accuses him of trying to buy forgiveness with money, and for a moment, trust wavers. Meanwhile, the sheriff arrives on the scene. He approaches Annie, claiming backup has come. "Tell me the location of the plane," he demands. Annie is taken aback. She hasn't told anyone about the plane. The sheriff pulls her aside, revealing his true plan. He intends to return the money to Rhodes' team in exchange for a 5% cut, which he expects to split with Annie. Shocked and furious, Annie refuses. The sheriff grows aggressive, pulling a gun. He forces Annie and Harlan into his vehicle, driving them toward Rhodes' location. Harlan, calm but focused, says, "I can lead you straight to the plane. All you need are the GPS coordinates in my bag." But as the sheriff reaches into Harlan's bag, his hand triggers a hidden bear trap, snapping shut. The car loses balance and violently flips over. From a distance, Rhodes and his crew spot the wreck and rush toward it. Harlan breaks a window, freeing Annie, and they both escape just as the sheriff opens fire on them. In the chaos, Serena, moving with Drake's team, shoots the sheriff from behind. Harlan tries to reason with her, but Drake and his team advance relentlessly. Harlan grabs the sheriff's weapon and returns fire, striking Serena. At the same time, Drake shoots Harlan. The bullet hits him, but he survives, the pain fueling his resolve. Back at the cabin, Rhodes issues orders to Payne, kill Annie. But Payne, now a man of faith, refuses to take part in violence. Enraged, Rhodes shoots him dead, leaving Harlan and Annie vulnerable. Rhodes aims at Annie next, but in his last moments, Payne lights a lighter and throws it onto the methane trapped under the ice, causing a massive explosion. Flames erupt, engulfing the area, and Rhodes is burned alive. Harlan barely survives the inferno, searching frantically for Annie. Drake, however, is still alive. He captures Annie, using her as leverage to prove his ruthlessness. He shoots Annie in her left ear, preparing to fire into the right. Harlan attacks Drake, but Drake overpowers him. Annie summons her courage and tackles Drake from behind. The struggle moves to the frozen lake. Drake nearly kills Harlan, but Annie intervenes again. During the brutal fight, Harlan finds a broken paddle blade and drives it into Drake's throat, then kicks him into the frozen lake. Drake crashes through the ice, sinking into the icy depths. Finally defeated, exhausted but alive, Harlan performs a fasting ritual alone on the lake in preparation for the tribe's purification ceremony. During meditation, he sees a vision of his late wife. She approaches him slowly, silently urging him to forgive himself. With tears in his eyes, Harlan releases the deep guilt he has carried for years. Several days later, Annie informs us that the police have recovered the plane at the location Harlan indicated. However, out of the $20 million, only $4 million was found. As Fane's surprise, but Annie quickly realizes the truth. Harlan had already removed the remaining money and secretly delivered it to O's tribe, enabling them to construct a community hospital. Harlan's actions combine practicality with compassion, showing his evolution from a lone survivalist to a man seeking justice and good for the community. Meanwhile, back in the wilderness, Annie meets Harlan at the lake. Harlan teaches Annie's young daughter to fish, the scene calm and serene. Their faces show peace and fulfillment. After battles, betrayals, and losses, they've finally found their place together. The high-stakes heist and action emphasize loyalty, betrayal, and redemption. Harlan transforms from a solitary man burdened with guilt into a protector, fighter, and community hero. Annie proves courageous and decisive, navigating threats with intelligence and skill.